Okay, welcome everyone to this first GitHub training session for Catalyst Circle and Catalyst Circle admin. And we were just discussing people registering for membership on the Catalyst Circle organization GitHub. So if we start there, I'll do a screen share if I can figure out how to do that. Oh, there you go. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this is the Catalyst Circle GitHub organization. And I've just created, for the present, 2 repositories. There's a kind of website I'm developing, but that's not ready. The first one I did was to take the prioritized problems that were in the Trello board and transfer them here to this repository. And as issues, they look like that. But more familiar for people will be the project view. The project view, if you look at this, is in here. I set up a project here. There's the link to the original Trello there. And if you click on this, this will bring up a project board. And the project board copies the same format as the Trello board. Okay, so you've got the same labels, the same information in each one. So I'll just open one of these. You can open here, and then you can also go to the full issue here. So if I go back to the board, close it. So close that there. So so first of all, I'll talk a bit about this for the benefit of Peter, anyone who's going to be managing the Trello board at a circle meeting. Yeah. So instead of sharing the Trello board, you'd be screen sharing this board, Peter. Okay. So, and you'll be opening up issues. I mean, you have to get used to opening up the issues here. You can either open them in the sidebar here. Yeah. Or you can go to the full issue in a separate screen, okay? And then you can change things in here by editing it once you have access, okay? So yeah, just to give you some idea there. Okay. I won't go further into it. I just wanted to show you that's how far we can replicate the Trello board.
Trello, yeah.
Okay, so let's try and see what's. The other one I started setting up, which I've just hasn't really started, is this coordination repository here. Okay, and this really needs. The reason why I've only just started it is because it needs the input of admin to see how it should be built as well. And what I'm going to do is base it on the Jira. Okay. So if we look at that, first of all, I mean, it's just a standard repository. I mean, I don't know sure how familiar you are with the setup of a standard GitHub repository. By standard, I mean, this is just the basic open source minimum for setting up a repository. So a code of conduct, a contribution file, a license, which in this case is Apache 2. But if you want to change that, and a README file, the README file would be just a link to the basic open source documents, and then a kind of, these are called medals or flags for what issues are open and what issues are closed. And here we could put any other information we wanted about what we're doing. So if we wanted to give an introduction to admin or whatever, we could put that all there. Now, if we go to issues here, this is where issues would be the equivalent of a card. I think they're called in Jira. Okay, so and I've created an issue for this meeting. So, for example, to get people to register for GitHub accounts, to provide a GitHub account in the comments of that issue, that's been done. You know, and we can make. I can go into here and I can edit this. You know, so I can add additional actions here. update that, and then that can be an additional action that's done, for example. And then people can just, as they've done here, you can just add comments, here. This gives you an idea of what you can do with a single issue. So on the side here of these issues is the assignees. The assignee will be the equivalent of the owner on Jira. So if you take a card in Jira, that'll be the equivalent of the owner. You can add more assignees, but I would recommend just keeping it to one assignee for the moment. Labels here, this is labeled as training for obvious reasons, but the labels are equivalent to these labels here in Jira. So let's take this admin book here, for example, in Jira. That's labeled under admin team sustainability, or so the same naming convention we use in Jira, we could transfer to a label system here in GitHub. But again, this is all up to us how we want to organize that. For the sake of simplicity, I've just created one project board called Catalyst Circle Coordination. And as we've just started this, it's in to do. I'm going to move that now to in progress. Okay, so you can do that as well. So you can add milestones, but I mean, that's a bit overkill for something like this. So, but if you want to take notes of this meeting, we could then take notes in the comments, or other people could take notes in the comments, or we could take notes in the body of the issue as well. Okay. So the task to be done, if we begin to transfer everything from Jira, will be to look at these cards and then take each one and transfer that to an individual issue into GitHub. I'll leave that there for people to think about for the moment and talk about what else we can do. Let's say there's a meeting, so there's an admin meeting, a circle admin meeting tomorrow afternoon, I think that's right. And so what I've done is I've taken that meeting here and put it into an issue, which when that meeting starts, it can go in progress. If I go to that issue, I just took the text of that, pasted it in here, and let's imagine we were running a meeting. So we could say, here's Nori, here's me present. Yeah. So we could document the meeting as we're running through, just as we do in Word or Jira. If we're going to edit that, so we and start to, you can take additional notes here, like this is a note. Thing, then update that, and that would be a rec, and then you again that could be in progress here, and you can also, if the meeting was about a particular subject, you could put a label in there to say this meeting was about this subject X, Y, Z, that kind of thing. So you
question.
Yeah, go
on. If you go into edit mode to edit as the meeting is happening, that can only be done by one person at a time, right? It's not like a multi-edit kind of a thing.
I think it is possible to do multi-edit, but I try to avoid it, Nori.
You don't want to get like a merge conflict.
Yeah. So what I would do, if someone's facilitating a meeting, so if you're facilitating this meeting, I would let that person edit the body. Okay, this bit here. Okay, and if people want to add things on top of that, they can go to the comments. Because comments don't cause a conflict. So let's say Andre, if you wanted to add something to this meeting, you just go to the comments here and you say, I have a question, something like that, yeah. And you comment, and that would just appear down here. It wouldn't conflict with this body here. Nori's right that it is possible for more than one person to edit this, but it can cause problems with merge resolution. So, but it does give us a way to run a meeting and document it as we go through. Do you think that would be workable, Nori?
Yeah, I think it would. We should try it. I like the nice part of Google Docs where you can actually have 5 people typing. You can see everybody typing. So if there's a easy way to take that and transcribe it into here without a lot of work, that might be cool. But if it's easier to just edit in place, then that's okay too.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't have that nice feature of Google Docs, but what it does have are a kind of progressive documentation. So, like for example, you can record who was there, and that's then a record for that meeting.
Yeah.
You know, and also if there's other things, other issues, like for example, on the Jira board, when we transfer a card from the Jira board, it can appear here as linked, you see. So you can directly link from the documentation into the subject you're talking about. So when you come back to it later, let's say also, if you see that, so here, this is Fund 7 proposals. So that links to this issue of the scope of Fund 7 proposals. And I can open that in a new window. If I go back to that, you can then refer to that, but also that will refer back to, that refers back to the meeting here. So you can go back and forth between an issue. That is really useful, because if you're looking at this, you can see who's mentioned that and who's talked about this issue in a meeting. And you don't get that in, I'm not sure you get that. I don't think you can get that in Jira. So this is a proposed way to do admin meetings. I'm just proposing it as a way to do. And as you say, Nora, it's probably just something we should try out and see how it works. Maybe tomorrow. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, you said you copied and pasted it in there. So can we do it in Google and then put it in there?
Well, what I did,
and will the links, like if we were to link the cards in the Google Doc and then copy the links
you
into
can
there?
You can link that. And what I did, I just went to the admin folder and copied this. Yeah. I just copied all that in, and it's quite simple because there's not much formatting in this. It did it quite well. Some things it didn't copy. I don't think it copied that link across. So some things you'd have to be careful about making sure there was a link copied across to here. I think only certain links were. But you can link anything in a GitHub issue. You can link anything in. So you could link in a link to a Google document, a Zoom call link, YouTube link, you know, whatever you wanted to. You can also paste images in. So like if you go, for example, to this issue here, which is about the scope of the Fund 7 proposals, which I'm discussing with Harris, I've got a screenshot of the presentation. These are all images pasted in from the presentation. So you can do that as well. And you can make these linkable as well. So it's like, the reason why I do this is it's self-documenting. So that when you, the idea, the kind of method that I'm using for GitHub is you not only organize yourself, you document yourself as you go along. So that's really the idea. So you don't have to bother doing a playbook or something. Let's say all the playbook can fit into this, hopefully, as well. But that's another subject. And if you go to the brute view, that's how issues look in kind of an issue view, so without the project board. So if you look at these labels, if I click on an individual label, I can just click on that, and that filters it. So any admin meetings would just be listed here. Fund 7 proposals, if I just list the Fund 7 proposals. You can also filter by assignees. So these are all assigned to me. So, but I can set up links for that. So let's say there was something that Andre was doing or Nori was doing. You could just look at just those things that were assigned to you or Andre, and whether they're open, closed, they're closed. There's nothing closed at the moment, they're all open. And then it lists all the comments here, that kind of thing. So really, it's a combination of using issues with the project boards. And the project boards live in projects, and there's only one project board at the moment, which I to keep it simple, is this Catalyst Circle organization. And that looks quite like a Trello board, but this can all be change to whatever we want. So going back to the prioritized problems, those priorities problems project board is based on the Trello board. So these headings here can be changed, follow the Trello board headings. You know, so you can change that as much as you want and adapt it how you want to. Okay, so any questions or thoughts?
So how we could even have multiple boards kind of all in the same space, and that's what you're kind of envisioning is ours and prioritized problems.
What I've discovered from experience is to keep the boards simple, because if you create lots of project boards, you just end up losing things. I find that's from experience. I found we can experiment, it's fine. So I found that it's better to go through a labeling system, just to categorize things through the labeling system. And if you think of Jira, let's go to Jira. Okay, you look at this Jira board here, and you look at what is categorizing all these. What do you call them in Jira? You call these cards, I suppose, don't you? It's these labels here. So these labels we can replicate in GitHub. Okay. So every single one of these can be a label. And then when we click on those in GitHub, imagine they were there, like admin meeting, they would filter automatically. And same, I can't, it's the same with assignees. So I think the assignees, I'm not sure how you do that quite immediately in Jira. Is it assignee, that's unassigned. Can you click on the name? I'm not sure. But in GitHub, you would just click on that name, and then you would see, assigned issues. So there will be an equivalent way of doing that in GitHub. And that shows all the issues that are assigned to Nori. So the aim will be to replicate all this in GitHub, but there will be some differences, obviously, because in Jira, you have that kind of stand-up review thing, Nori, that you do. And you just have to approach that a little bit differently in GitHub. You would have to, instead of going, it won't be as nicely presented, to be honest. It will be, instead of that nice view that you have, you'll have to do a series of filters. You know?
Yeah, and it'd be easy enough to add filter and say.
Yeah, and what you could do actually,
Nadine.
You could link the filters you could pre-prepare the filters in the agenda, and you could just link to them, and you could just click on the link and it would open up that, and then you could then go through each person's stand-up. Yeah.
So we could pre-prepare a filter that when we go into the Catalyst Circle meeting, it only has their issues, even though. Yeah,
you see here what I've done. If I go to issues here, that's all the issues. Like if you see, let's get this out of the way. That has a URL here. And if I click on the admin meeting, you see the URL has changed. And I copy that and paste it in here. So let's say, go and then update that. I now have a link to that filter here. So I can then open that and it takes you back to just admin issues. See what I mean? So you could pre-prepare your agenda. So that if this was a stand-up, you would have, let's say, Stephen's stand-up. You could even make that a URL link. So by doing this, see, Stephen stand up. So, and you and then I'll just take you there. So you can make it nice and tidy like that as well. So, I mean, it just takes a little bit of practice to do that. I've just created a URL link there of that, but you could have it as a raw link if you wanted to as well, like just a raw web link like.
Right. Okay. So yeah, we can set that up in the templates.
Right, that's right. And I've done that
just
for
replicate and replicate every time.
I haven't done this for Circle yet, but I can show you what I did for Swarm if you're interested, which is Swarm for Beehive. Okay, so in Swarm, what I did was create issue templates for various things. So when I went to a new issue, we have issue templates for different activities, like after town hall, core Swarm meeting, that kind of thing. If you go to after town hall, for example, it pre-fills what you need to put in there. Okay. So you see all that stuff there. So if you've got a standard format for a meeting, that can easily be set up as well. And it can also automatically label them and assign them as well. So I won't save that because that's not really, but I mean, Eastern Town Hall is a good example of how they use meetings. In Eastern Town Hall, we do have a coordination repository, and then meetings are recorded as issues in Eastern Town Hemisphere. You see this labeling system that Robert, this is I always set this up with Robert. So there's the state pools and everything. But if you want to filter meetings, here's all the Eastern Town Hall meetings. Okay. And then you go to an individual meeting. And then when we go into an Eastern Town Hall meeting, we have the previous meeting link there, and we can have the next meeting, a link to any other documentation on the meeting, any subjects, labels here, and then the rough agenda. I mean, how you can link into the attendees here, and this will notify you of that you've been mentioned in this issue. So you'll be told that you're mentioned in this issue. And then all the documentation is here. And this is all public, open source, of course. So here's people who commented during the meeting. Yeah, various issues. So it's a whole complete collaboration tool. You know, and this shows you that it is being used by other members of the community, like Robert, like Andreas, Lynn, you know, and Felix even, you know, so it does work. And Felix is not, and you know, it's just a complete newbie to GitHub, so he manages to use it quite well. Let's see. Yes, I'm not really, let's go back to trying to find, I've got too many repositories. So Catalyst Circle, okay. So if we're back in Catalyst Circle coordination, and then back to our organization. And that shows you who the members are of our organization, and that will fill up as people respond to the invites. The way I set it up for a team is I get everyone to be members of the organization, and that allows a member can create a repository, okay, and they can comment on any issue in the body of any issue in any repository. Okay, so once you're a member, it means you can go into any repository and let's say go into an issue, open an issue, and you can edit it here. Okay, and for other repositories, I have more documentation repositories. I don't let people do that because it means that you can change the content here. But obviously, if we're working as a team, we want people to be able to do that. Yeah. So, but just bear in mind you have that power. But every change that you make will be recorded. So, like, literally everything you do will be recorded. It's impossible to delete anything.
For the for the documentation side of things.
Yeah, sure.
Do you operate with people forking a repo and then putting a pull request back to suggest changes, or are people more just committing straight to mainline? And
I keep it simple, Norrie, because No, I mean, Robert has been doing that with Eastern Town Hall and the website. It's kind of quite a complex, not complex system. There's a system where people are putting in change requests or pull requests, and then they're being reviewed. Yeah. For everything here, like Swarm, the only thing, like for example, when I started with Swarm, not everyone in Swarm knows how to use GitHub, so I kept it very simple. It's not about, it's just really using issues. And there's not really, so all the documentation is going on within an issue. There's no forking of, say, a README. You could take this whole repository, I think this is what Nori's referring to, and you could fork this entire repository to, I won't click on it, but you would click on that and it forks your personal repository, and then you can make changes locally to this file and then merge back in. But there's no point in doing that because we're not documenting here. But if we want to, we can get into that. We can
I was thinking more for like the playbook or some of the other procedure and policy kind of documents that we're trying to put together right now.
Well, we could get onto Git Book if you're interested in that. So there's a couple of options, okay, for documentation. One, and this is again up to admin team, okay? The first option is just to use a repository. So the way to do that, let's say, is literally to go here and just say, okay, I'm going to create a playbook. It directly into a repository. Okay, and you can do that. That's fine. You can do that. There we go. I've done it. And then you can create subdirectories and folders. And this is all markdown format. Okay. And then if you go back, you see you've got a folder there where all the playbook can live, and everything will be in markdown format. Okay. That's one way to do it. Okay. But arguably, that's not very accessible. Okay, people find this very difficult. They don't like doing this. And what people appreciate more is Git Book. Now, what a Git Book, I'll show you the back end first of all. It's a bit of the wrong way round, but I'll show you. Let's go back to Swarm again, because this is quite an old one. Right, so these Git books here, these are actually Git Book backends, because the way I set up a Git Book, when you see the front end of a Git Book, like the capitalist Swarm Genesis Git Book, there should be there's a link somewhere. Not really, no. Right, Swarm Genesis, okay. Okay, so this Git Book here, the back end is, I've lost myself now. Just got too much open. Just close that. Move that over there. So this is the back end of that. Okay. Now it's set up that this is given priority over that. So I could actually make changes here, and this is restricted, but I could make a change here, and it would then merge into the Git Book front end here. But you can also edit directly in the Git Book interface, and this makes it more user-friendly for people. So if I go to the capitalist Swarm Git Book, then it's more what you see is what you get kind of editing, you know, and you can, you know, add things here like, you know, and then add fancy headers like that kind of thing, and then submit it and merge it. I won't save that, just leave that page. So I won't save that. But what we could do, and there are some issues here around who's going to pay for this. So it's a funding issue maybe, because that would be, the only accounts I have is Capitalist Swarm and QA DAO. And Capitalist Swarm is funded, but we could set up a Capitalist Circle account, and it charges us about £7 per person per month, I think. something like that. And that would allow us collaboration access. There's an open source package, but it doesn't allow you collaboration tools. By collaboration tools, I mean multiple people could then work on this document here. And you can also have a review process here, like change requests here, reviews, and discussions as well, like Google Documents. So the entire playbook could be in a Git book.
That might be really easy for people to update. Myself, I'd probably pull the Git repo locally and then run Obsidian or some other Markdown editor over it, and then commit everything back. But
Git book is a bit temperamental because I'm quite cautious with it. But in theory, you could edit the back end, and I sometimes do that. But I try to encourage people to use the front end. But it does allow you a solution where if something goes wrong with this, you've got a copy here. This is all marked. These are all markdown files.
Yeah.
So you can actually take it elsewhere. Like for example, capital circle election results. That's how it looks at the back end. That kind of thing. Yeah. And there's all the So that's the other way of doing it. There's the Catalyst Circle Git Book version 1. The version 2 is now under the QA DAO account. There's George Love's Git Book, back end for his Git Book, and the Beehive is the coordination repo for Catalyst Swarm. So, I mean, for example, here I tracked Swarm going back to June. We've got some closed issues every day. which is maybe overkill, but it shows you what you can do. But from our perspective, we can keep it simple, just replicate the Jira board, and so we could have a Git book here somewhere. I'm also working on a what's it called? A static site generated website. So, but that's not working yet, and there's still some niggles with that, and it's not that accessible, I don't think, because you have to know a bit about. I think Nori, you probably could do it. It's Hugo and stuff, you know.
Same as Eastern Town Hall.
Yeah, same as Eastern Town Hall. Yeah, and I've also got one set up for QA DAO. Quality Assurance DAO's got the same thing.
Okay.
So that is another.
I think one thing that we probably want to do is figure out a way to have the domain name be more under control of the admin team.
Yeah, sure.
And then we can be doing websites and things without having to wait for Michael to adjust things, because he currently has the domain name and the email stuff.
Yeah, I mean, let's see, where's my website? That's my website. Okay. So this is sorry, my internet's a bit slow. I think it's on the Zoom call. Okay, so this quality assurance down. That's a static site generated based on Hugo, based using a Doxy theme. So it's quite a useful theme for documentation. So it's quite, and it's also got these nice. That's GitHub. Let's go to the blog. Sorry, I think it's unusual, but GitHub is actually down. But there you go. So you can create these it's quite nice for documentation layout. You can create these category tags here as well, and that's the backend repository, which is is run on Hugo is based on the programming languages called Golang, and it runs through a GitHub action, which I could go into, but So it's a bit more involved, so, we could set that up as a kind of way of having, if we're going to have a full stack website, then a static site generated website is just as technically difficult. If you're going to start with a word, I think Michael was talking about using a WordPress site, wasn't he? I'm not.
Yeah, but I think if everything's being marked down in Git, then
yeah, sure.
Static site generator makes a lot of sense because then it just directly represents what we have there with some CSS to make it look nice.
That's right. And also it lives in your organization repository as well, which is nice.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. So you own it. It's not owned by WordPress. Yeah. And it can be, and also this can be forked as well, like everything else. And you can you can create issues against it. Like this, the setup of the quality assurance to our website issue, that kind of thing. So you can you can put an issue against. So it's nice, that management tool from that perspective. I think
I have a question.
Yeah, go on.
Is there a way the community is managing domain names currently, or is it kind of pretty scattered?
For the community, I think Robert is working on a domain for the Eastern Town Hall one, but we haven't set it up yet. Yes, there's no consistency. Is that what you're asking, Laurie? No. I think he's going to call that.
For these community things, it'd be nice not to have these kind of things under the control of specific personal accounts. It'd be nice to have a community account so that if somebody does leave or changes roles or stuff, it's not awkward because someone has personally bought and control certain assets and things.
Yeah, like what if someone dies?
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, this came up.
We have no password.
Well, funny enough that it came up with Swarm because when I set up a lot of these repositories are owned by me, and when I set up with Swarm, I said to TiVo, look, TiVo, you should be the owner. There's a procedure in GitHub where you can nominate someone. So if something happens to you, the nominee takes over. And we need to look at that seriously now because, there's stupid amounts of repositories. I'm now the owner of too many repositories, and I shouldn't be the owner, really.
Right.
And so we should talk about this, Nori, actually, as an open source strategy. Yeah. It's very important because if something happens to me, God forbid, people will not be able to delete things or I suppose do fundamental things to the organization of the thing. So really, actually we can do that now. Actually, let's see a problem with that because go to character circle 1, and I could just make you an owner, Nori. So you're currently a member. I could just make you owner. I'm not sure if that would. I won't do that now because I'm not sure if that knocks me off as the owner. But I think you can have more than one owner. Is that right? I'm not sure. But
we should experiment with that.
Yeah.
But it might be nice to have like a community office kind of group where somebody has the owner roles across all of these things that are community run projects as a group. And then so that so we avoid some of those issues of one person dying or being incapacitated for a while and blocking things. Or
I'll take the example of the repositories I set up for the challenge teams, which was that Catalyst challenges. So I set up a GitHub repository for every single challenge in Fund 7. And there's a coordination repository. So I always set up a coordination repository to manage everything. And then a repository for every single, and this is based on also, a repository can be based on a template. These are all based on templates. So this is generated from a template here, which you can pre-design, okay? And then that creates a space for every single person to they can then go into their own repository and work on that and use project boards and issues there. But the issue there is who owns that, is because I own all this officially, because I'm the owner of this GitHub organization. You can see that that's just me, and that's not right. Because I don't own it. It may be an open source license. It's all licensed under Apache 2, but I could still delete all this if I wanted to. And I could, if something happened to me, no one would be able to be a member of this. So it's quite a big issue, really. It's one of those things where people ask you to do something, you do it, and you just forget about it, and it's about,
Yeah.
But I would love to share that with you, Nori, actually. So
yeah,
because there's a lot of these. There's also one for. There's also one for Catalyst Coordinator, for Catalyst Swarm. It's actually shared with TiVo. Catalyst School, I shouldn't be owning that. I think I do own that as well. So
yeah, if you're interested, I'd love to chat about some kind of organization or group that can own all this and provide continuity and safety and maybe, God forbid, auditability, or even put forth a community proposal to pay for all these, so each project doesn't have to do it all the time.
So that's the kind of overview. I mean, how do people feel about this? Because people have different reactions to GitHub. So, I mean, first of all, from a Circle member perspective, a lot of this is going to be transparent, I think, because it's mostly going to be the prioritized problems in a meeting. So Peter, if you will be screen sharing just a board, and I don't really see that's much different from the current system, So
yeah,
I don't think people are going to see much difference there. In theory, you could actually do the minutes here as well. But it may be easier just to use a Word document, and then because you could use the Word document, and if you wanted to, after you've completed the Word document, you could just paste it into an issue if you wanted to. So it's really what you're comfortable with, But that's something else to consider. I think I've covered everything there. I mean, So from an admin team point of view, it really replicates Jira and Trello. It's a lot more powerful than this as well. I've only just scraped the surface. You can do a lot more with this.
Yeah.
In some repositories, we'll actually automate things like this. If you go to Swarm.
I was wondering about the Beehive. It looks like there's weekly, like week 48 tasks. And I was wondering if those were automated or someone's creating those.
No, I was automating. I started off doing it manually, and then I started just trying to remember where I've put things. Okay, so when you do automation, it goes in this folder here, and you create issue templates or workflows. Issue templates I've showed you before. Yeah, a workflow uses a language called YAML, which is the native language of a GitHub action. And a GitHub action is a continuous integration script. So that looks like this. It's basically a run job, which is based off a cron job, which runs at a specific time to create an issue. In this case, it creates an issue for Town Hall. So that this one here generates that.
Nice. Because we have a number of weekly tasks as admin team, and it'd be nice to just say, create the slides, here are all the steps, create the agenda for the meetings, and all of that should just be automated.
The problem is YAML, I don't know if you ever use YAML, Nori. It's easy, but it's a bit fiddly because it's all very fussy about indentations and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's doable. And then when the actions run, you can see the run jobs here. Here's all the actions that run. See? So I used to automate the call meetings, but that's stopped now because we don't do that anymore. The only thing that's automated now is the after town hall. When you look at the job here, that's how that looks as a job run. It actually runs a Docker container. And then, you know, again, it's only scratching the surface. What I'm trying to do with Eastern Town Hall with Robert, we're trying to automate KPI reporting.
Ooh.
So what you would do, you'd fill a form out for your KPI report, and it would then scrape it into a markdown and create a record of your project. So there's all sorts of, but what you just mentioned, Nora, is really quite exciting, because that'd be really nice to do. Because that's quite easy to do that, wouldn't it be? Because we'd quite easily define that.
Yeah.
So let's say, because we have quite standard tasks, like you could say, you could create a GitHub action that would just say, on Monday, create an issue and allocate it to Peter to ask people to do the slides. Okay. And you could even add a little bit to it. I haven't quite worked out how to finesse it, but it could send you a message on Discord as well, or an email as well. So yeah. And
there's also Slack integrations that make it really nice.
Oh yeah. There's, if I go to Slack here is a repository for Swarm, and here's it's integrated here with GitHub. So every single thing created on GitHub goes into Slack for Swarm. The QA DAO, same thing as well. So yeah, there's Slack integration there as well. I never really played with Slack integration. I kind of just set it up and left it. You can also integrate GitHub bots on Discord as well. Like you can,
and I think long term, since Andre's here, it could also be used to see who's doing what, and we could work that into like the compensation side. If we have standard tasks and then we know who did those tasks every week, we could assign values to those. And then if it was Peter this week, but JP next week, we would have a way of tracking that without people having to punch in and out and doing stuff. Just do their normal work, and all that would become possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested, I could show you some other examples of that to give you food for thought, but it's more, I'll give you more advanced stuff. But what I do, my system for tracking time uses a combination of different tools, but I kind of like, if I go to Swarm, for example, and then go to, let's go to Beehive. Every week now, I used to do all this on a daily basis, but me and Felix agreed to do it on a weekly basis now. So we create a work record for ourselves for each week here. I haven't filled this out yet, but last week's one has everything I did that week at a high level. And these are I actually do use Jira with this as well, funny enough, but these are Jira codes. So on Wednesday, I just drafted a lot of proposals, and I went to After Town Hall, and that's got a link to After Town Hall. So it shows you, I could then jump back and forth and all that. And also I could, if you're working on an individual task, and I used to do this quite a lot, I've integrated this in with Clockify. So I could just start a timer on that. I started working on that and allocate a project to it and start recording my time on that. That's optional. It's up to you. Some people like doing that, some people don't. That's another thing, but this shows here over here is Clockify. And I use this to keep track of all the time I spend on stuff because well, just trying to stop it. It's not letting me for some reason. I'm not sure, but discard, that's fine. Okay. But Clockify gives you a nice, I just use it to give a rough estimate of, and this might interest Andre, is the amount of time you spent on something. So let's say you're doing a proposal related task, something that's related, that's budgeted for. Like say, Peter, you're working on the slides or something, and you want to say how long it's taking you to do that. You could use Clockify to give you an estimate of that, and then you could put that as a costing into a proposal. So it can be quite useful from that perspective. I can also show you more advanced. Yeah, go on.
Is that free?
Yeah, yeah, it's free. there is a paid version which allows you to do things like timesheets and more advanced reporting, but I've never needed to use it. Not really. You can even in Clockify, I can put costings. Like for example, go to reports. This is my time reports, and I've got billable hours. I mean, that's wishful thinking. Actually, I don't actually get that much, but if I did get paid, that's how much I would get. This is $40 an hour. That's just ridiculous. But you could put any value you wanted in there, and you could filter that by tags, like let's say count a circle, and then apply a filter. Yeah.
I also see that you worked way too much on Sunday.
I don't stop working. I'm a sad person. Yes,
I looking at his profile on GitHub, and it's like green.
Well, my profile.
Your activity.
Oh yeah, I should talk about profiles actually, because this is quite good fun actually. So if you go to your own profile, let's see where you are on Counter Circle. So Peter, let's go to your profile. I mean, come on, man. You need to do more with this profile. It's a bit sad, because all you've done is join this. But you can do a lot of great things. First of all, it shows you what your contributions, and all that.
Woo!
But you can edit all this to create a kind of CV almost. So this is a README file.
It would be an amazing place to display participation NFTs. Like if you're involved with Catalyst Circle V1, you can have a badge for that, and it could show up here if we have a special markdown thing to pull in that kind of data. You can have a wall of participation.
I mean, it shows you, right, that shows the contribution grid. I mean, because I started working NFT DAO, that was in March the 7th. So this is all NFT DAO work, and that's mostly Swarm work, and that's kind of all work basically. And then these are the organizations I belong to, and which are so probably too many. And then I need to update this because all this is funded now, which is nice. So and I work with Secret Dex as well. It's cool. But you can create all lots of graphics here and links and statistics and stuff. As you say, Nori, you could put NFTs and things in here, anything you wanted to, really. Actually, talking about Secret Dex uses an interesting tool. Again, this is just to put, because I know here, because you might be interested in sprint techniques, Nori. So Secret Dex uses Sprint, so we use ZenHub integration. So ZenHub is a front end on top of, which rests on top of GitHub, and then allows you to do sprints. Trying to get rid of this message here. But yeah, it's not really, go away, okay. Okay, but that allows you to do roadmaps, for example, and reports, like breakdown reports, and your more traditional sprint progress. So if you're interested in that, you could talk to Dan or Tyler, and Dan and Tyler do regular stand-ups every week. And
that's Dan Mercurius.
Dan Mercurius, Dan, and Tyler Wiles. And that's for the Secret Dex, which is a artist, for people who don't know, that's an artist collective, distributed cooperative, kind of using tarot and stuff like that. Arcana, they've got an Arcana Git Book and their own Discord server. I'm a core member with them, but they'll set that up. But that they use GitHub quite interesting. In terms of documentation, they actually collaborate on documentation in GitHub, which is quite cool, so it means they go to individual markdown files and then edit them together. And then so someone makes it, so a bit like using Google Docs, but in Markdown. So it's possible to do that, but it depends on how comfortable you are with GitHub. So I'm not assuming that. I'm just assuming very basic knowledge. So
yeah, baby steps.
Baby steps, yeah. So so that's why I suggest using the Git Book as a front end for documentation, and not using the repository at all, because that's not going to be accessible to everyone.
Yeah, but if someone is comfortable with Git, they could just pull the repo, edit locally, commit it all back.
Yeah, we need to be careful about that. We will probably need to test it because of the eccentricities of Git Book, because Git Book runs on its own proprietary actions. And sometimes you get kind of, Git Book is a bit annoying to use sometimes, frankly. It's kind of, it can be quite fragile. But if it is, we could do it, yeah. That's the straight answer to that.
Worth trying.
Yeah.
Okay.
It probably, Hugo is more stable. So I would rather do that with a static site generator. But that's something to, I don't know how many people here got development experience. To set up Hugo, it wouldn't be too, you wouldn't have to be too technically minded to update it. Do you not think, Nori? I think you probably could update it quite easily.
Yeah.
Probably could create, what we could do is get people to fork the website and then submit. So if you wanted to change the blog post, then write your blog post and then do a merge request.
Exactly. And then we could have people approve the pull request and then merge it in.
Yeah.
I need to hop to another meeting, but I really appreciate you taking the time to go through this. I think it's super useful, and I'm glad it's being recorded because I'm sure other people wanted to learn more about this. And
so time's flown. So
Right.
So so is any thanks, Nori. I need to hop off as well soon. I probably but I can stay on for another, say, 5 minutes or so if you've got any questions or requests.
Steven.
Thanks, Nori. Yeah, I'll share the recording.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so, or shall I stop? So I come out of stream space and sort of stop that share. There you go. So what do you think if I stop recording now? Let me stop the